Hello, and welcome back to yet another Geek Show, where if I had a quarter for every joke I've made, then I'm your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Alden Munnell.
And I'm
your
not...
host, Josh Keir. Wow, Josh, you sound different today. That was weird.
Yeah, sorry about that. Guys, if you don't mind, I don't think I'm going to talk much today.
Yeah, that seems for the best, Josh. Thanks.
Yeah, Josh, fuck off. I don't want you in my show. You'll be noticing that Josh has a little bit of a cold today.
I sure do. I don't know why that makes me talk like this, though.
Are you sure you don't
sound like this?
I hope he listens to this episode.
Oh, he's going to.
Anyway, you're here with your two more important hosts.
Yeah. We're going to label this episode Josh Sucks.
Yeah, that's a good title.
Yeah.
That.
Or Josh, don't listen to this.
All right, so speaking of Josh, I took another one of Josh's suggestions.
Oh?
Yeah, one of yours too, but you already know that. But I did take one of Josh's suggestions again with another sitcom. And I watched a season of that Superstore he was talking about last week.
I've been wanting to watch it. I've been caught up in a couple other ones.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like sit down and focus on it. I don't think that's really necessary. I just kind of squeezed in that time by having it on in the background while I'm playing on the Switch, you know?
Yeah.
And it's an appropriate show for that kind of thing because it's not real plot heavy, you know. It's a pretty simple sitcom. It's not. Josh suggested The Good Place, and I watched that and praised to the hell out of it. And that's a show you should pay a little more attention to.
Okay.
Superstore is a bit more of a thoughtless kind of jump in and out of it kind of thing. You don't really need to pay attention. There's a little bit of progression, but like maybe the standard for a sitcom.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
In there for the plot. But I don't know if that sounds critical, kind of calling it brainless. I don't mean to do that. But I enjoyed that. I do recommend that. And I haven't worked in retail, so you should probably watch that and have a bit more input on it.
Yeah, probably.
But I did enjoy it. And there's, I think, 4 seasons now, and I'm probably going to finish it. But again, I'm going to finish it like in the background when watching TV is not really what I'm doing.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I haven't been doing a whole much things lately. I don't know why my brain doesn't want to function today, but I've been one of them days. But
when you don't want to wake up.
Okay. I wasn't gonna bring it there, but you know, thanks, Josh, for that input.
I'm sorry, guys. I just couldn't contain myself there.
Why do you sound like the Christmas poo?
Anyway.
Oh man. Yeah,
New topic, let's go.
Yeah, I started going back and watching Yu Yu Hakusho, I believe I told you guys. But now I think I'm going to end up restarting it because I think my wife is starting to pick up a little bit on it. So,
oh, did it work?
It might have. I'm trying to find out now. However, aside from that, her and I both watched Get Out, which we are spotlighting. And
yeah,
something that was really funny was, you ever do this thing, Dalton, where you know someone's watched a movie and they wanted you to watch it with them?
Did she already watch Get Out?
Oh yeah, she's seen it a long time ago. But she's trying so hard not to give away any information, and I'm doing two things at once here. I'm watching the movie, trying to understand what notes I can take out of it and bring to the spotlight, and I'm also watching her to see if her face gives away any context clues of what I'm thinking of that's going to happen in the movie.
Okay.
You ever do that?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Oh man, like I was sitting there like, and then she's like, no, and I'm like, and then
what, you mean like you were making a guess as to what's happening?
Yeah.
She's like, no.
Yeah, she'd be like, well, you're on the, no, I can't say that. And then I'm like, well, then just shut up. Let me watch the movie. Damn.
I do that on this podcast frequently.
Yeah, he does. Shut up, Josh.
Stumble over my words because I don't know how to talk about a new movie without spoiling it.
Right.
We'll figure it out one day.
Oh yeah.
I'll figure it out one day because I'm the only one of us that watches movies for some reason.
Yeah, really. I mean, you're the weird one. You don't play video games as much as we do. Yeah, he sucks at it. I know, Josh.
I have 3 games on the list this week, not counting ones I'm playing for spotlights.
Oof. Wow. Look at you.
Yeah, I've been busy entertaining myself. That's why I do this show, really, so I don't feel guilty about all the video game time. Look, I have obligations to 2 other dudes. I have to do this.
True, you do. Yeah. There was something I did want to bring up to you, Dalton. Recently, I started playing The Witcher 2 again.
Okay.
And I mean, I didn't get super far into it, but I'm trying it a different way because the first time I played it on the Xbox 360, and oof, yeah, that was rough. And going back to it and playing it on PC, I'm noticing a few different contrasts. Okay, well, for one, it plays better, completely better, but I'm doing it keyboard and mouse for this game. And I don't know if you've ever played it on controllers, but it was mangled ass on a controller.
Oh, I imagine this is definitely like the first Witcher game is PC only. This is definitely a PC oriented series.
Oh, absolutely. The first game is only on PC. Now, what I wanted to ask you was, have you ever gone back and played a game from your younger days before the podcast on PC and have noticed that the controls have gotten significantly better through a keyboard? Or worse, actually, and was better on a controller?
The only thing I can really think, because I can't think of any games I played on a console that were primarily aimed at PC like this, you know? So I can only think like shooters in general. The mouse and keyboard is a game changer.
Oh, of course.
But outside of that, like, there's so many genres, and I don't know what you technically call those first 2 Witcher games, but there's so many genres that I still feel are better suited to a controller, and it's mostly just shooters that I'm playing mouse and keyboard. And then there's things like, obviously, your real-time strategies or something like the Sims or, you know, point and click adventures, those kinds of things. But other than just saying shooters in general, no, I can't think of anything like that.
Okay.
Although now I'm totally incapable of playing a shooter with a controller. It really was a big difference, and I'm totally hopeless without a mouse now.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, whenever I suggest we play a game together for the Let's Play series that's coming up, you're consistently avoiding any shooter games that you cannot play a mouse and keyboard with. Now, what exactly is it that breaks it for you?
I would say just at this point, some of it's just a lack of experience because I haven't chosen to do it for 5 or 6 years, because the mouse is just so measurably, objectively the better way to do it. You know, comfort aside, that's, you know, the benefit to the controller is, oh, I want to sit comfortably on the couch. But comfort aside, in terms of your actual ability to control, the mouse and keyboard is objectively superior for first-person shooters. And so I only did that, and it only took a couple of years for the controller skills to go out the window.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Because, like, I've gone back to several games, and I've played them unconventionally. Like, for example, Rocket League, like, that's a controller-based game. Like, you need one to play it. It just makes more sense. I actually played it for, like, a month just using my keyboard to see if I could do it and what the differences really are.
Well, and I remember yelling at you about it because you didn't have a working controller you could use with your PC at the time.
Well, hey, way to make it look like, you know, I wasn't just experimenting, that I had no other choice. Yeah, Dalton, that was fucked up. Shut up, Josh. I don't need your defensive input. Sorry, guys. Josh is getting a little out of hand today.
I don't know what's wrong with him today.
But anyways, you had more to go on?
Yeah, sure. Let's move on to... Oh, speaking of rewatching things. Season 1 of Game of Thrones. I've started over.
Oh.
And I'm going to try my hardest to binge watch this whole thing before the show comes back up.
Yeah, see, I think
at this rate, I have to watch, I have to watch 2 to 3 a day to pull that off at this point.
Episodes or seasons?
But I think I can pull it off. It comes back on in a little under a month.
Yeah, something like that.
As of this recording.
Yeah. See, my wife started doing that, and I totally agree. It's a good show to go back and rewatch, but at the same time, I'm not gonna put that much time and effort into stuff I've already seen unless it's been a long time.
I mean, I should have started earlier if I was gonna try to pull it off before the new season. But the thing is this is gonna be a really basic bitch white girl thing to say, but Game of Thrones is my favorite TV series ever made. I have no issue going back through this a million times whatsoever.
You could have said The Walking Dead.
No, fuck that show. Fuck that garbage.
I'm seasons and seasons behind. I think the last episode I watched was season 6, episode 1. And okay.
I think I stopped in the middle of 4.
See, here was the thing. Man, I'm going to be talking about my wife a lot today. We would go over to my mother-in-law's house, and my wife would just, hey, did you watch The Walking Dead this week? Even though she knows that she didn't. And then her mom would blurt out the big spoiler of that episode, and she'd be like, Mom, I'm not caught up. And I'd be like, well, I'm seasons behind. And it's not I don't make an effort to watch it unless I'm really bored, which, hasn't been the case for a while, apparently. But it's just really funny every time. So I
could only imagine going back and catching up on that show if this podcast miraculously became successful enough to be a full-time job. There's no other reason I would go back and try to catch up, except on the comics eventually.
Yeah.
But anyway, going back to season 1 of Game of Thrones. Have you ever started the show over while you were pretty far in?
Yeah, I did when I first watched it.
Because I did this a couple seasons ago too. It is so bizarre to go back to season 1 and see how different the cast is in terms of who's still alive and in terms of just seeing how young everybody is.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
And I don't even mean just the kids that are young adults now. I mean Khal Drogo and Jon Snow are visibly ridiculously young, and the image in my head has been thrown off this whole time because we watched them age so gradually.
Right.
There's never a season where, they were young and now they're old. It happened gradually, and I've had, the image you see in your head when you think of Jason Momoa right now, I didn't even connect that's not what he looked like when I started watching this show. He looks visibly different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
It's such a weird experience.
When was the first season of Game of Thrones? What year was that?
Well, we're going into season 8 right now, and we skipped a year.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that means it was 8 years ago. So it must have premiered 2011.
I think that sounds about right. Which, if you think about it, man, that's pretty intense. Because we see them really age over 8 years, and they do a really good job of it.
Well, and so many shows that last this long, kind of. I mean, this show couldn't do the same thing because it started with young teenagers, but so many shows kind of prevent letting you see the aging.
Yeah.
Presumably just with makeup or not letting their hairstyles change and that kind of thing. But there's plenty of shows that go on for 8 or 9 years. I guess let's mostly think of sitcoms where they want you to jump in and you can't tell immediately if this is season 2 or season 8 because we're not actually letting these characters age.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. I do have to point out something though. There's the moment where Tyrion, when he eventually gets the scar on his face, how much of a pain in the ass would that have to be to constantly do that makeup over and over and change it every time because it's like a healing thing, you know?
Oh man, I've never even thought about it.
Like, let's put it this way.
That never crossed my mind. You're right.
Like with Mortal Kombat, like the that generation of games, the Mortal Kombats 1 through 3, the guy who played Jax, they had to do his makeup on his arms for 2 hours each time they had to film him. So like I can only imagine, like, and that was just like, what was that, the photo frame animation style?
Yeah, well, I mean, and then there's more obvious things like doing Mystique for X-Men is probably 8 hours of makeup.
Right. So like the difference there is like with Jax, like it's still like a really pixely photoed animation styled thing, whereas with like Game of Thrones, like,
and they bothered.
Yeah, exactly. Because like with like the scar on his face, like that's something that you're going to notice no matter what.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, and so here's another thing that kind of changed my experience here is that until now, I've never owned a half decent television while watching this show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so first of all, I didn't realize quite just how good the show looked, really. But maybe that improved quality is why I can like tell how young everyone is now. Like I'm suddenly realizing like how smooth everyone's skin is, and I had no idea before. It also has the drawback of now all the CG is way more obvious than it was before.
Yeah, that's true. And not to mention, with like at least the first 2 seasons, do things feel really awkward to you too? Like, not as in like it doesn't feel like awkward to watch it, but like some things just feel like they linger on a little too long, or sometimes things just feel uncomfortable. Like
you talking about the sex?
No.
Oh.
No, I mean like
because it's ridiculous in season 1.
Oh, I know. It was pretty ridiculous in season 2 and 3 too, wasn't it?
I don't remember quite when it started to slow down, but there were definitely scenes in this season where I'm like, yeah, all right, I get it. Like, chill.
Yeah, we get it. You're HBO. Come on.
but whatever.
No.
I get it. I guess it got people watching it and got the show a budget. So
true.
But
no, I mean like with conversations with characters, they feel like they linger on too long. You know what I mean? Like shots go on where it just, okay, where's this going? You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard to put into words.
I mean, it sounds like you're just saying the pacing's a little slow, and
yeah,
sure, but I think that's pretty consistent of most of the show, really.
I mean,
and it's a thing I don't mind at all.
Yeah, the later seasons really did fix the pacing, especially season 7.
Well, season 7 goes too far into fixing it and moves blindingly fast to the point where it feels like they're rushing to the end now.
Well, I mean, you also have to remember, what was it?
Like they shortened both of these seasons, and season 7 has me feeling like, ooh, they really didn't need to do that.
I mean, you also have to look at it as like there were double the episodes, but now they can like double the budget on each episode when they cut the episode like season. Like the season and a half, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. We're getting fewer episodes, but they're longer and they can distribute the budget better, but it affected the writing.
Yeah.
Not totally sure it was worth the trade-off, but we'll see about it in season 8 where it goes even farther.
Right. I do have to say though, season 1, it's hard to get through, but it may not be.
The first time I watched the show, season 1 didn't get me hooked, and I didn't understand until like the season finale.
Yeah.
Going back through it, I'm enjoying it thoroughly the whole way, if only because it's a show you have to pay so much attention to. You can't get away with the multitasking I generally do. And now when I go back through it, it's like, oh, I'm picking up on all the shit I missed last time because I was being an idiot. And now I understand who all these characters are. And, you know, my first time through, I probably looked away for a minute and then went, oh, shit, who's this person again? And now I'm like, oh, okay, I know who that person is. I know why he's there and why he would say that.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt with like Berserk. Segueing off of that, I always say that Berserk is as close to Game of Thrones could be if it were an anime or a manga. It's weird.
Yeah, I can see that. Sure.
Okay, because like
I get what you're saying.
Before this moment, called the Eclipse in the show, there's a lot going on because like you have the Band of the Hawk and then they fight for Midland, and Midland had this castle that was seized from them 100 years ago, and it was held by the oh shit, what were they? I can't remember, but like there's different like factions and knights. Like there was the Purple Rhino Knights, which were probably my favorite. Then you get with the Band of the Hawk, they join Midland's army, and then they become the White Falcons, and then there were the White Dragons, and there's a lot of colors going on, at least in the first thing, in the first act of the show. Or rather, it's a movie trilogy now. Dalton, you watched the original 90s Berserk, didn't you? Yeah. Okay. Because I recommend the movies that came out in 2016. Those are super good. And then, I can't necessarily say I recommend the anime that came after.
I think you got sidetracked and fell away from what your point of comparison was here.
Well, there's a lot going on, at least in like the first act is what I was trying to get at. Sorry. Like if I'm comparing the first act of like before the Eclipse in Berserk to like the first season of Game of Thrones, they get muddy and you have to multitask and understand what's going on with each individual faction and person, especially in the manga.
It's just, and I mean, it's all the better for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the show to slow down. It's important that you understand and are introduced to all these characters right up front, but that's definitely a challenge on the viewer. But it is one of the biggest, shows of all time. So I suppose viewers aren't stupid. I suppose everyone managed to catch on.
True. Another interesting thing about Berserk is that you get to watch the characters age as well, which is something that's pretty cool, I thought, like since we were talking about Game of Thrones and shit, with its characters aging. But man, you need to really read the manga. It's so good.
You need to read a book sometime.
I can't read.
Yeah. Well, I just started reading again. I'm not going to say what because I'll get there when I finish a book. But
what's Berserk? Shut up, Josh.
I hadn't been reading for a long time. Anyway, back to gaming.
Okay.
You saw a little bit of this, but I played through Sushi Striker, The Way of Sushido. I think that ridiculous title is.
Oh yeah, you did show me this game a little bit.
Okay, it's for the Switch and the DS, 3DS, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are suggesting playing it on the 3DS instead because I see a lot of people say it works better if you use the touchscreen controls, and I disagree severely. I was not able to play this game with the touchscreen.
Really?
But yeah, not at all. It's at first, like I caught on that they kind of wanted me to, and I tried it that way for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, nah, let me go back to the controllers, and started doing infinitely better. I guess you'll see why when I explain the gameplay. Think of it as the most polished mobile game you've ever seen. I don't know if I'm talking to you or the audience here because you saw it.
I've seen it,
but the idea is your character's sitting in front of a table where these plates of sushi are crossing in front of you in both directions. And these plates are color-coded, and the idea is that you have to draw a line across matching colors while they're quickly moving. And they're moving in opposite directions. So if you're starting in the middle row, you're gonna like, your plate's moving to the right, and then you jump up to one on the top row, and now you're sliding back to the left. And so you have to think about direction while you're trying to match these colors together, and you have to keep track of which colors are worth more than others. And as your character levels up, you start getting colors that are more valuable, or there's power-ups that switch all your colors to more valuable ones and whatnot. And there's a lot of like detail into a progression system, because you collect what they call sushi sushi sprites.
Yeah.
And you get to like equip. They're basically Pokemon. They even evolve when they level.
Oh my
but
God.
you get to
This
pick
sounds like a
3 of
mobile
them
game.
before going into a match, and they all have a unique skill. So you might have one that gives you some amount of health back. You might have one that multiplies the damage of you hitting your opponent with these plates. Just stuff like that.
Whoa.
So,
Hang on. You just explained the game mechanic as like another like complicated version of Tetris, and now you're saying there's a battle behind it?
Yeah, you're playing against an enemy, and they're doing the same thing you are. I think this game has an online mechanic, by the way, but I didn't try it. The idea is, as you're tracing these plate colors, it builds you a stack of, let's say, 8 green plates, and then you attack the enemy with those plates is the idea, and you both have a health bar to bring down. So anyway, there's, you level up these sprites as you use them, and you pick them out strategically. You level up your own character as you're playing. And then because it's a glorified mobile game, each level has kind of, you get a letter ranking, but then there's also 3 gold stars that you might, get up to 3 of these and be better awarded for the more you get.
Okay.
That sort of thing. And it sounds like I'm chastising it, but it's actually a ton of fun and has a lot of production value into it. And it has these fully animated, like good looking anime cutscenes between each level.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bother to watch them, to be honest, because the story they didn't try to make it interesting. It's just the silliest, flimsiest thing they can put together to explain why you're having sushi themed combat with other people. But I did appreciate the effort that went into that animation. And depending on if you chose the boy or girl character, they have to swap out different animations too.
Oh, that's neat. But the funniest thing is that I know you sat through a campaign of Dive Kick, and you're telling me that this isn't interesting, man.
I played through one campaign of Dive Kick, which probably took less than an hour of my life. I played this thing for many hours.
Yeah, true.
The game has, this isn't the exact number, but something like 150 levels. And to be honest, I didn't finish it, and I don't intend to. I think I made it through maybe 60, 70-ish levels. And like, it's fun, but again, it is just a really polished, glorified mobile game, and I'd rather start playing, more Smash Bros. Or starting Breath of the Wild. There's a million more important things I'd rather start playing than sink any more time into this little addictive nonsense. That said, I recommend finding it cheap used, because it is way overpriced.
I was just about to bring that up.
Do. It is a first-party Nintendo game, and that's how Nintendo do. So I think it's $50 if you buy it new on the Switch.
Yeah, it's something like that. Which
maybe $40 on the 3DS. It's ridiculous. Go find a used copy.
I'd pay $15 at the most.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, not to discredit the developers, but come on, it's not a compelling story. It's not vivid artwork and animation. It's a game where you throw fucking plates at an enemy.
Yeah. That said, I would be absolutely thrilled if mobile games started to turn into this, where it's, here's something addictive mobile like Angry Birds, but hey, instead of advertisements and loot boxes and microtransactions, just give us $15 and here's the fucking game.
Yeah.
I would start gaming on my phone.
Oceanhorn, actually.
Is that something made for phones or ported to it from a real platform?
No, Oceanhorn. Okay. Let me talk about Oceanhorn because I'm mostly through the game now. It started on mobile devices. Okay. It's kind of like a knockoff Legend of Zelda Wind Waker game.
Sure.
It's like $10 or $15 still. I bought it on my Switch. I never got to play it on my phone, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. It feels better with a controller for sure. You're an adventurer who lived on an island. His father left him a note saying, "Hey kid, you I'm leaving you and I'm going to fight this giant thing called the Oceanhorn." The dad disappears and he's left on this island with the old hermit, and all he has to remember his father by was his journal, and he didn't know his mother. His mother just had a medallion, and one day the medallion decides to glow and disappear into somewhere on the island, and you have to find it and follow it. And next thing you know, you find your dad's old sword and more from I think something about his journal, and you go and start an adventure to find your missing father and stop the Oceanhorn. I truly,
what's the gameplay type here though?
It's very Legend of Zelda-esque. There's no. It's small little islands. It's kind of an over-the-head display, you know?
Okay, but so here's why I ask is that, it's interesting that something like that gets released on mobile first. Mm-hmm. But I ask because I'm saying, like, the type of game that you actually think of when you think mobile, like Angry Birds, for example, Candy Crush, that kind of thing. The kind of thing that is truly better suited to a mobile device. Yeah. I wish those would just charge an upfront cost and quit with the nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah, this game, it gives you a cost and then you play the whole thing with no interruptions.
So it's cool that this is like that, but yeah, I'm just also saying the actual I would appreciate like those mobile games, I'm putting them down, but like some of them are legitimately fun and I would legitimately play them if they could just knock off with the nonsense. You know what? Throw all those Angry Bird games on Steam without advertisements and microtransactions, and I'll give you $10 each for all of them.
Whoa. You would pay $30 for all of them?
Oh, there's more than 3 of those things, but they're actually legitimately fun, but I'm just sick of seeing the advertisements and the microtransactions, and quit trying to trick me into giving you more money. Quit abusing people that are totally willing to give you $1,000 in microtransactions for no reason, and just let me buy the damn game without taking advantage of me. Yeah. Just be honest with me.
Stop with the money.
That's all. Anyway, tell me more about this game. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. You're fine. It's Wind Waker in a nutshell, basically. I mean, you have to find these 3 things in each individual land. You sail a boat. You don't really get to sail game. Well, it's honestly a really good game, and I know I'm going to undersell it if I try to describe it. The music is phenomenal. Actually, Uematsu is in a lot of the score, or some of it at least. He helped write.
Oh, I'm sold then.
Yeah, the music's probably my favorite thing about this game. It's really good. If you're a Legend of Zelda fan, this feels exactly like a Legend of Zelda game.
You know what? Speaking of which, why haven't we gotten Uematsu on a Zelda game yet?
Right.
Come on, Nintendo.
Oh man. I really want to. I would love to see Uematsu develop an album or a soundtrack for a Zelda game that was never created.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Screw you, Nintendo. Let's just pretend.
Yeah, just make a Zelda-esque soundtrack, and I would listen to that for weeks. Years. Let's be fair. Yeah. It's years.
If we had an audience, someone would be in the comments like, here's an Uematsu soundtrack that kind of sounds like Zelda.
Yeah, but it's not made for this. No.
Anyway, so speaking of music and games, my weekly VR game, I returned to Audioshield.
Oh, this game is fun though.
This game was fun.
Oh no. Did they break it?
This game was fun, and I don't recommend going back to it.
Uh,
The appeal that this game had at launch, or when I bought it 2 years ago, was the lack of competition it had yet in its genre of VR rhythm games. And man, it just doesn't compete with anything like Beat Saber. There's nothing thrilling about that experience at all anymore. I could have fell asleep playing it, even on hard mode.
Wow.
It's just not interesting. Like that game, there's maybe Beat Saber is not the best comparison. I use that because it's the best rhythm game there is, but there's more similar VR rhythm games in the sense that there's orbs floating at you and you kind of have to hit them. But in Audioshield, it's not hitting them. It's a shield. You block them. Other games like this are more active because you have to punch the notes and you're encouraged to, and you might get more points based on how hard you hit or how accurate you were. But in this one, you're just holding up your shields and waiting for them to run into your shields. And it's just not active enough for a rhythm game. And something I always kind of liked and disliked about it was that you were always able to play any song you wanted off of YouTube and it would automatically generate a track. And it was cool and not cool at the same time because, like, I have a really picky, precise taste in music. And this was the only rhythm game in VR at the time where I could, play any song I wanted and I'd be guaranteed to have something I liked. But at the same time, these automatically generated beat maps just aren't as good as what someone pieces together by hand. So that was hit or miss. But more importantly, it didn't have any songs that came with it mapped. And it made the game, and even more so today, but it made it feel just kind of pointless. There was no goal in mind because there wasn't like a set of challenges to accomplish. You could play a song and you could get your score at the end, but then what does that mean? You go into Beat Saber and there's mod support so you can get these infinite songs going on, but there's also, here's I think it's now 18 songs that are built into the game. These are your challenge. Beat these on expert. Now there's even a campaign mode in it. So there's a goal here. But if the game doesn't have any predetermined content like that, it's just, hey, go on YouTube and automatically generate some beat maps. There's no goals there. There's no sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, it's a game that you didn't think you wanted because it shouldn't have been there,
And now it...
Did they make it worse?
And I haven't gotten to why it's even worse yet. They broke the YouTube support.
Oh, fuck.
The YouTube support is gone, and there is no intention to replace it. And so now you have to have music on your computer to generate beat maps off of.
Seriously?
I don't have any fucking music on my computer. Not in 2019, I don't. Give me this game 10 years ago, and yeah, I've got 60 gigs of music to throw up in here.
Right.
But today, most of us are relying on streaming. Those of us that aren't are buying our music from DRM platforms. I mean, I could go through the effort of, using some browser extension that downloads songs off of YouTube, but I shouldn't have to.
Right.
You already had the capability.
Yeah, it's just more steps now to have a game that's fun.
Yeah, and it's not worth that effort at all. It's not exciting enough to justify that effort.
Right.
It doesn't really feel like there's a goal to accomplish to justify that effort.
Yeah, unless they replaced it with a Spotify or a Pandora, auto generation thing that you mentioned.
Yeah, well,
there's no point.
And I don't even know if it's possible to I don't actually know if it's if there's an API available for developers to do that. There may or may not be.
Mm-hmm.
But and furthermore, this has always been a problem. It's not a new thing, but in terms of like trying to get some sense of accomplishment out of this thing, the scores at the end, because that's all you have to work with, is can I get the top score on this thing? And of course you can't. There's millions of other people playing this game. Not millions. It is a VR game. That's not Beat Saber.
Hundreds.
But the thing is this game, normally I praise this, but this game was so open to mods up front that the scores become meaningless.
Yeah.
For example, people could mod it so that there's no longer two colors to coordinate. Well, that person definitely just beat your score. And they could modify the whole algorithm. People were creating new difficulty settings.
Right.
That overwrote other difficulty settings and just totally made all the scores meaningless. Or then a crippling design flaw of their algorithm that makes it super not fun is that in order to get enough orbs for it to be challenging, you had to put it on a difficulty level that also spread out the orbs far past your field of view. So it's totally crap on that level too. But so people looking to fix that problem then mod the game to push the orbs closer together. And then of course those people beat your high scores.
Right. And not to mention when you push the orbs farther away, some of the people that are playing like on a headset like mine, they can't play it anymore.
Yeah, it probably doesn't work real well on certain mixed Windows headsets. No, that's not true because you'd have to turn your head to see those orbs anyway, so they would get tracked.
Well, yeah, but then your controllers go all screwy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in something like Beat Saber, that's happening because you're swinging outside of the view of the camera on the headset. That actually shouldn't happen here because if you saw that orb, you moved your head, as opposed to Beat Saber where you always see them coming.
Yeah.
Ahead of time. And so you might not move your head with the block because you saw it coming. You don't need to keep following it with your head. It's not the same here. That thing will come from outside of your field of view. So if you saw it, you turned your head.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know what? I actually forgot that this game removed the YouTube support quite a while ago. And when I found out, I tried aggressively to get refunded on Steam and it never got accepted, and fuck that game and fuck that developer and don't buy this garbage.
Well, wow. We got our strong unrecommend for this episode.
0 out of 10. Give me my money back. So I also played a game called Lisa. I believe I've explained this to you before, Alex.
I think personally.
Yeah. So you're... I assume Josh has played it too, if only because a friend of his strongly recommended it to me.
Yeah, I told
on
him
the basis.
Put it up my butt.
Yeah. Anyway, this game, Lisa, I actually quit it. Normally, I bring a game to you because I beat it. I feel prepared to talk about it now. But this game, I actually had to quit, and it's not because it's bad. It's not because I hate it. And Cody, if you actually listen to the show, I'm glad you recommended it, but I just can't handle it. The anxiety is unreal. And I started playing this thing in maybe October, and I only have maybe 7 or 8 hours of playtime into it because I just can't bring myself to throw myself back into that world again.
Oh, this is the Fire Emblem-esque game.
This is the game. You made that comparison, but I'm not familiar enough with Fire Emblem to agree or disagree that there's similarities. But the gimmick here is that decisions and things that happen in combat really matter. For instance, like you have your one main character and you build up a party. It's an RPG, and you have an opportunity to gain a lot of party members because a lot of them are going to die. When your character dies, okay, go back to a save point. But when another character dies, they're gone.
Right.
And there are story elements that take them away too. So I was presented with a choice to make where an enemy was holding a party member hostage, and I had to give up my arm in exchange to rescue this party member. And giving up that arm, I permanently had attacks removed from my options and had my stats permanently lowered.
Yeah.
And you can't always just go back to a save point if things didn't work out right or you made the wrong choice, because it limits your usage of save points. You get to use a save point one time.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that, actually.
And you have
it was a super late night.
Yeah, and you have campsites where, okay, you can rest here and get your health back up, but when you wake up, you might find out that a party member was stolen or that your items were stolen. So you're even risking, trying to use a resting point.
Right.
This is in a post-apocalyptic world, and it is severely dark and depressing. But there's humor in there, too. It's a really strange balance. Like, if you look at Borderlands, where you're in a dark world, but it's also over-the-top silly. Imagine the over-the-top silly is there, but that the world actually feels dark to be in. Like Borderlands is fun. This is a post-apocalyptic world like Borderlands, but it's not a fun place to be. You're actually upset that you're here.
Right.
It matters that you're in this environment. And I don't know that I really need to explain anything of the story. I'll say it's definitely compelling, and I'm probably going to watch somebody finish it on YouTube because I can't bring myself to do it just because of the sheer anxiety. I mean, like, I even at some points I'd look at a guide because, with health being so hard to come by, I don't want to accidentally go, exploring in the wrong direction just to find out I didn't need to be there and I got into 4 or 5 different battles for no reason.
Yeah.
And used up my health supplies for no reason. And then I'd open up those walkthroughs and I'd realize that, like, maybe a direction in there wasn't very clear and I didn't go the way they intended. Maybe I started doing things in a different order than they suggested, and now I'm really not sure if I missed something or not.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
And every time I got back into playing it and, like, remembered what was going on and remembered what parts of the area I've explored, I still could only bring myself to play it for an hour or two because of the anxiety, and then I'd put it back down and not touch it for a few weeks. So it's, we've had a conversation before about whether a good game is automatically technically fun. This game is fantastic. It's incredible. It is no fun at all. And on the grounds of no fun, I'm done with it. But I recommend it anyway.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give that one a playthrough here.
Yeah, give that a shot for sure. So we had one last game to cover, and that is what you played last week, The First Tree.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How'd you like it?
You had some pretty high praise for this. You compared this to some pretty wonderful games, man.
Yeah.
Am I making you nervous?
Yeah.
I did really, really like it, but it didn't connect with me on the same level as you for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can give it the Journey comparison, but it is a wonderful game that I can totally recommend. I don't remember how much of it you bothered to explain last week. So I'll just say it's a walking simulator, and you're either into that or you're not. I'm into that personally. I don't know how many of these you've played, Alex.
Games that are more of an experience?
So when I think walking simulator,
Dear Esther comes to mind.
No, yes, exactly. Dear Esther, maybe Ethan Carter, Gone Home, The Beginner's Guide, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Firewatch. So I've played a lot of these. I'm really into the genre myself. I totally understand people who aren't.
Oh yeah.
If you're not into them, this isn't going to be the one to change your mind. But I did really like it, and I think it has a really unique visual style. I think the narration and voice acting is really well done.
Yeah.
The dialogue's actually compelling. The score, I'm going to keep listening to. Like, I don't know if it's on Spotify. I assume so, but I'm going to look for it and keep listening to it. I'm really into the music.
Yeah, the music was very, very well done.
That said, while I can praise a lot about the game, I don't know that there's a unique draw to it is my only thing.
Yeah.
And maybe I shouldn't criticize that if I'm also saying that I'm into walking simulators. There's nothing unique about any of them at this point, really.
Yeah, that's fair.
But so I don't know if it has anything that puts it above the level of others for me. But, the reason this would have connected with you on a deeper level than me is because the narrative in terms of the dialogue you're hearing voiced over and the narrative in terms of what you're actually seeing play out on screen.
Yeah.
Because they're related, but not the same thing. It's a story about loss, and a very particular loss. It's about the loss of close family. And I, thankfully, haven't experienced that yet in my life, but most people have. So hopefully, it'll hit most people a little harder than it did me. But for me, I do still get more out of something like Journey. I don't know that I could ever fairly give it that comparison.
Yeah, that's very true.
There's little bits of it that feel a little less polished than I would have liked.
Of course.
Just in terms of, and I'm just nitpicking here, none of it matters, but the controls don't feel real great. But at the same time, most walking simulators aren't in third person, and the controls are literally just walk.
Yeah.
No jump mechanic or anything like that.
Yeah, the only big complaint that I really had, aside from some like little buggy things, was like I got lost a couple times, and I kind of wish that the fox could move faster in run mode.
Yes, he's definitely way too slow, but it's a tricky thing to deal with in this kind of game because in this particular walking simulator, it's broken down into levels, and within a level, you trigger the narration and hear more of the plot by, reaching certain points on the map.
Yeah.
And the creator has to consider when he's putting this together that because you can hit these points in any order, they have to make sure you can't start one piece of audio and then hit another point on the map before that audio is over.
Right.
And that has to be a balance that has to be something you think about a lot putting together a game like this. So I experienced that, but at the same time, it's like, I understand why that happens. I don't really know if he could have avoided it or not.
Oh, so you had multiple spots where the audio would cut in front of itself.
I think I only had it happen once where I triggered audio and then made it to another audio point before that one was finished.
See, I always just kind of sat and waited.
Yeah, but that only happening once means like he put the thought into it to make sure that wouldn't happen. When you play something like Dear Esther, it's a lot more linear. And so the creator only has to think, how much time do I have from this point to that point? But in here, where it's kind of any order you want, he has to think, I better make sure they don't hit any points before this dialogue is over. That said, maybe it would have felt better if the world was actually more spread out, but you still moved faster. It could work at the same pace, but you would feel like you're getting there faster. Maybe. Just spitballing.
Maybe. I do kind of, I don't know. I do hold this game to a very, very strong candle here, but it's not without its flaws. Like the butterfly jump mechanic, I thought that was really cool, but like I wish it could have had a bit more exposition. You know what I mean? Like learn by going through the game instead of only having it in like that one segment. I felt like it could have been used a little more, or maybe had more substantial.
Honestly, that thing you're referring to, I never figured out how to use it. I couldn't wrap my head around how it was supposed to be working. No. Where you like walk over the spiraling butterflies and then they kind of surround you. I never managed to, I assumed that had something to do with the jump, but I never managed to get them to help me jump or do anything.
They just made you jump higher.
Oh, okay. Maybe that wasn't super obvious to me that I was jumping higher. I don't know. In any case, I don't think I was required to do that at any point.
I mean, that whole thing was a very, very strong emotional thing for me, though the whole game. I can't remember if they explained like what the butterflies were in the story, but man, there's one big thing I want to talk about, and it's so spoiler.
Yeah, we'll get there. The metaphor is more obvious in this game than it is in something like Journey or the similar Abzu, if I'm pronouncing that right, where those games don't have any narration at all, and that does wonders for me, just really letting your brain go wild. This one wants to tell a certain story, and even though, like I said, what you're seeing on screen is not what you're hearing in the dialogue, you get the connection pretty well. There's not a whole lot that's up to interpretation here, but that's not at all a downside. That's just something that makes the games different. Do I need to say anything else before we get to spoiler territory? One other nitpick.
Okay.
There's particular items you see in the environment that are the ones that more obviously relate to what you're hearing in the dialogue. You know, the really out of place things like a car or a sign or something.
Yeah.
Really clearly out of a asset store, right?
I mean, whether or not they were, I still loved that idea.
Oh, I mean, they're used well. It's a great creative decision. It works. But I can tell that, like, I feel like everything else in the game is built for this game. I feel like the creator put together his own models and textures and shaders and whatever. I'm not a game developer. But those items, when I saw them, I immediately know, like, oh, you grabbed a school bus out of an asset store.
Yeah, I mean, that's
just a nitpick. Doesn't really matter. They're used well, but like I can tell.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I almost dare say it kind of adds to its charm because you're in such an abstract world. I mean, you're really in a dream. So I mean, if I want to dream about assetted cars from a video game, then I fucking will, man.
They just feel like not particularly great assets.
Yeah.
And the rest of the game gets away with being really indie and low budget because of the stylized visuals. You know, just working with what you got and basing the visual style around that. But these assets that clearly came out of an asset store are clearly like pretty low quality. And because it's supposed to be this oddly realistic thing sitting in your fantasy world, like, as much as that idea works, I want your weird realistic thing to look a little better.
Okay.
And maybe part of it's that they don't work with like the fantasy lighting. I don't know. But
we should probably get to the spoiler territory here.
Anything else? Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right. So from here on, this is going to talk about spoilers for the first tree. So you should go and play the game and then come back and listen to it from here.
Yep. At this point, we're assuming you've played it.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the thing I want to bring up that's spoilery is the game mechanic of you leaving a message for another player to receive. It's a cool move, but I do want to point out this isn't the first game I've seen do it.
Well, no, it's not that you leave it for another player to receive it. It's the message that the fox leaves.
I get that, but another player does receive it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
That is the idea. You as the fox leave that message, but another player as the human receives that message. The message you saw on the tree afterwards was left by another player.
Oh.
And then it asks you when you're totally done if you want to upload you mentioned you didn't type a message. If you type a message, it asks you if you want to upload it to their servers for another player to see.
Oh, so I wonder if, like, because I didn't do that,
if you didn't get that prompt.
Well, not even just for the prompt. I wonder if I got like a defaulted thing.
Well, no, because, I mean, you do make the decision for it to be blank before you see a message. So I don't know. Did something about your message seem like it was defaulted to you?
I'll read it to you.
Because it doesn't explicitly tell you at that point that it's from a person. It just, you pick up on that context. It doesn't say, here's what you received from our online servers.
Right. Here's what, did you type something?
I did, and I decided not to submit it because I did not feel like it was compelling enough compared to the message I received.
What do you know what the message is that you received?
I do, because I pointed out to you that the game automatically saves a screenshot of your message and theirs in your pictures folder, I want to say.
Yeah. Now to clarify something here,
the game doesn't tell you that, by the way. So you could play this game, and if you don't use your pictures folder, suddenly find this 3 years later.
Yeah,
because you just didn't know it happened.
Well, hang on, Dalton. We're overlooking something here. I don't know if you caught this, but the white sparkles that you collect throughout the game, they are the amount of characters you have to leave a message.
Yes, I did catch that.
Okay, because if you go back to the beginning of the game's dialogue, he says something like, there are these faint glitters throughout this journey that the fox is having, and they're each they almost seem like they want to tell their own story. And I don't know if you caught that, and it made, like, as soon as I caught on what was going on, man, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I that's the first time I've ever experienced that. And I don't know, I really dug it. But tell me what your message was that you received.
Yeah, well, I did catch on that was happening because I was paying attention to my star count because I knew there were 150 and I didn't actively try to find them all, but I still ended up with, I want to say, like 138. And it caught my attention because I'm like, wait, did I really like accidentally get almost all of these without really trying? And so that number was in my head. And then I saw how many I had to write with and went, oh, I get it. And something happens if you get all 150, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, me either. I might actually, I'll have to go back onto this whenever I feel like crying again, probably, because, man.
Well, there's a commentary track, so go ahead and play it again with that and collect all the stars.
Maybe. I'll cry to the commentary.
Yeah. A lot of walking simulators have those. All right. The message I received was, go out and do good. Don't let your perceptions cloud your potential. Never quit. Enjoy the journey.
That's really good.
It's pretty good.
Mine.
It's pretty good, and I didn't compete with that, so I didn't submit it, and I don't remember what it was, but it was not that thoughtful.
Mine felt like it was part of the game, actually.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, the message I received was, I'm sorry. I wish I could turn time back to make it all right again.
So they really wrote that in character.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just say, I also wrote mine very in character because I did not understand at that point that it was going up to the internet for someone else to see, and I didn't understand yet what they were doing with this text. And so I remember I took a similar approach and wrote it in character like that. So I wonder if other people decided to do that. Not quite getting it.
And man, mine, but mine
so
kind of made it all.
Yeah, so it becomes more obvious what's happening once, if you did upload a message, once you see the tree. Did it really catch you off guard when you were suddenly the narrator?
Say that again? I didn't catch you.
Did it really catch you off guard when you were suddenly the narrator and it was in first person? And you weren't in the fantasy world anymore?
Ooh, kinda. Like I wasn't expecting it to happen. But it did take me quite a while to figure out what I had to do at that point.
Honestly, I did end up having to look at like either a YouTube video or a discussion because I didn't realize I could get into the tent.
Yeah, with the tent and everything, that was difficult.
I tried to walk into it, and you couldn't just walk. You had to hit a button to interact, and I didn't assume I could interact to get into it. So
yeah. I do have to notice though, I think he runs a little faster than the fox. In fact, I know that because I chased the golden fox at the end, and I actually outran him.
Yeah, me too. me too. I managed to pass him. I managed to pass him and had to stop for a second.
Yeah, man. It was at the like, I mean, I had some emotional breakups there when they were talking about certain things, you know, as far as the characters, because I mean, I'm recently married, and you know, I don't think I'd be as put together as I am right now if it weren't for my wife being there for me in probably the hardest time of my life. And a lot of it just hit home. Like the last few ending bits of dialogue, especially like, you know, where she said, you know, go back to bed. We're going to have a rough morning, or it's going to be a long day. But I absolutely lost my shit when they said, what does the mother fox say to her cubs? That message, man, I lost my mind. It was just a very impactful thing. And I recommend it to anybody who's been in a similar situation of losing a parent or.
Yeah, well, and to be honest, I made it a really far length into the game before I understood that your Fox character was that they were portraying it to you in reverse. I don't think I caught on for a long time that the Fox you were playing was dead and not the cubs you were seeing laying around.
Yeah.
I don't think I realized that was happening until the dialogue there outright acknowledged it. Like, I might have been, like, at the tree or really close to the tree before a piece of dialogue. I don't remember what it was. Before a piece of dialogue gave that away to me. I don't know if you were supposed to be able to pick up on that real quick and I'm dumb. Or if you were supposed to not realize that until near the end.
See, I had a different take on the fox. I had the thought of you were living vicariously through the fox, and that your cubs were a symbolism for like trying to find an answer to what's happening. You know, it like you're trying to find reason or semblance for why these things are happening to you in your life, and you just won't find them. I don't know. I took a little darker route than you did there.
I mean, there's room for metaphors in there, but your Fox character is definitely supposed to be dead, though, because the idea is that the first tree is a way for the dead to send a message to the living.
Right.
So, I mean, there's room for metaphors in there, but that's also literally what happened.
No, I didn't catch that until you did bring it to my attention, but that's how I looked at the game. Like, from my first initial standpoint, is I didn't catch on, is what I was trying to say.
Okay, I see.
But yeah, man, this game, I don't know. It's got some strong hits with me. The soundtrack is phenomenal. I mean, the
soundtrack's not Austin Wintory, but it is fantastic. I am going to keep listening.
This isn't something that's super, super spectacular, but it is compelling, at least in my eyes. And with that, I kind of think I have said everything I've wanted to say about it.
Yeah, of course. That is a strongly recommend from both of us. And Josh, if you're listening to this, what am I talking about? Josh is here. Oh, Josh, we forgot to make you leave before we spoiled it. Well, I hope you still play it.
I played the game right now, and oh my god, guys, it sucks.
All right, thanks for the input, Josh.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, till next time.